12th of September 1900, Volume 4, The Sin of Louisa, Plots of Revolution Against the Church. It continues almost in the same way. This morning on coming, he poured his bitternesses, and I was left in so much suffering that I began to pray the Lord to give me strength and to relieve me a little bit, for I could not endure. In the meantime, a light came into my mind that I was committing sin in doing this. Besides, what would blessed Jesus say? While on other occasions I prayed him to pour, this time, when he had poured without waiting to be asked, I was looking for relief. It seems to me I'm becoming more cativa, more bad, and my badness reaches such a point that even before him I do not abstain from committing defects and sins. So not knowing what to do in order to repair, I resolved in my interior that for this time, to make a greater sacrifice and to give myself a penance so that my nature would not dare to ask for relief again, I should renounce the coming of our Lord. And if he came, I should tell him, "Do not come, love. Have compassion for me and do not relieve me." So I did, and I spent several hours in intense suffering and without Jesus. How bitter it was for me. But Jesus, having compassion for me, without my asking for him, came, and immediately I said to him, "Have patience, do not come, for I do not want relief." And he, "My daughter, I am content with your sacrifice, but you need a refreshment, otherwise you faint." And I, "No, Lord, I do not want relief." But drawing near my mouth almost by force, he poured a few drops of a sweet milk from his mouth, which mitigated my suffering. Who can say the confusion, the blushing I felt before him? I expected a reproach, but Jesus showed himself more affable, more sweet, as if he had not perceived my fault. On seeing this, I said, "My adorable Jesus, once you have poured your bitternesses into me and I suffer, don't you have to spare the world? Don't you?" And he, "My daughter, do you think I have poured everything into you? Besides, how could you face all the chastisement I will pour over the world? You yourself have seen that you could not endure the little I poured, and had I not come to help you, you would have ended. Now, what would happen if I poured everything into you? My dear, I gave you my word, I will content you in part." After this, he transported me outside of myself into the midst of the people, and I continued to see the so many evils, especially the plots of revolution against the church and within society to kill the Holy Father and priests. I felt my soul being tortured at the sight of these things, and I thought to myself, if, may it never be, they came to carry out these machinations, what will happen? How many evils will come? All afflicted, I looked at Jesus, and he told me, "And what about that revolt that happened here? What do you say about it?" And I, "Which revolt? Nothing has happened in my town." And he, "Don't you remember the revolt of Andrea?" "Yes, Lord." "Well then, it seems nothing, but it is not so. That was the whole occasion and an incitement for other towns to revolt and shed blood, giving affront to sacred people and to my temples. And since everyone wants to show how much better he is in provoking evil, they will compete to see who can do more." And I, Lord, give peace to the church and do not allow so many troubles. And as I wanted to say more, he disappeared from me, leaving me all afflicted and concerned. End of the reading.
The 12th of September, 1906, Volume 7. Where God is not present, there can be neither firmness nor true good. I was thinking about my state. which now seems to be all peace and love. Nothing disturbs me. Everything is good, nothing is sin. And I said to myself, what will happen if at the moment of my death the scene will change and I will see the reverse of this? That is, all things will disturb me, and everything I have done will have been but a chain of evils. While I was thinking of this, he told me, my daughter, it seems you want to disturb yourself by force and take away from me my continuous rest in you. Do you think that your patience, the constancy, and the peace of this state of yours is your own, or rather the fruit and the grace of the one who dwells in you? I alone possess these gifts, and from the constancy, the peace, and the patience, you can recognize who it is that operates in you. In fact, when it is her nature or the devil, the soul feels dominated by continuous changes. She feels now one good, now another, now all patience, now all vexation. In some, the poor one is flapped about like a reed by a strong wind. Ah, my daughter, when God is not present, there can be neither firmness nor true good. Therefore, do not want to disturb my rest and yours any more. Rather, be more grateful. End of the reading.
The 12th of September 1913, volume 11. Jesus has been speaking to Louisa for 2 years about his will, which he had never manifested to anyone before. Since then, he substituted the ecstasy of his most holy humanity given to enamor her of his person with the ecstasy of his divine will. I was thinking about how blessed Jesus has changed things. Even when he comes, I don't remain petrified as before. Rather, as soon as he leaves, I feel in my natural state. I don't know what happened to me. Furthermore, I feel bothered by the single thought that the one who has authority over me may want to know my things. Good Jesus, who watches over each one of my thoughts and wants not even one to be out of tune in my mind, came and told me, my daughter, do you perhaps want me to use ropes and chains to keep you tied? Once they were necessary, and I kept you bound with much love, pretending to be deaf to some of your lamentations, remember? But now I no longer see them as necessary. For more than 2 years now, I have wanted to use more noble chains with you, my will. This is why, during this time, I have always spoken to you of my volition and of the sublime and indescribable effects which that volition contains, things which I had not manifested to anyone until now. Skim through as many books as you want, and you will see that in none of them will you find what I have told you about my will. This was necessary to dispose your soul to the current state in which you find yourself. After I kept you always with me, you knew very well that you could not have endured the suffering of the continuous privation of my presence if something, still mine, had not taken its place. Something which, invading your soul completely, had to keep you captured more than my presence itself would do. My will took its place in keeping captured each one of your thoughts, affections, desires, words, to the extent that your tongue speaks about my will with great eloquence and enthusiasm, because it is captured by my volition. This is why you feel bothered when you are asked how and why Jesus does not come as before. It happens because you have been captured by my will, and your soul suffers when they want to break the sweet enchantment of my volition. And I, Jesus, what are you saying? Leave me, go away. My evils reduced me to such a state. Jesus smiled in hearing me say go away, and squeezing me more to himself added, I cannot go. Could I perhaps separate myself from my will? If you keep my will, I must be always with you, My will and I are one, not two. Rather, let's come to the facts. Tell me, what are your evils? And I, my love, I don't know. You just told me that your will keeps me captured. How can I know them? And Jesus, you don't know them. And I cannot know them because you keep me always above and you don't give me the time to think about myself. And as soon as I want to think about myself, either you scold me severely to the extent of telling me that I should feel ashamed to do that, or you do it lovingly, pulling me toward you with such a strength that I forget about myself. How can I do it? And Jesus, if you cannot do it, this means that I am happier if you don't do it, since my will takes the place of everything within you. So just as if this will could see that something of its own were being taken away, it remains over you and prevents you from thinking about yourself, knowing that wherever my volition takes the place of everything else, there cannot be evils. Therefore, I remain jealously on guard. And I, Jesus, are you joking? And Jesus, my daughter, you force me to speak so that you may understand how things are. Listen, in order to make you reach such a noble and divine point, I behaved with you as two lovers who love each other to folly. You would never have loved my will so much had you not known me. Therefore, first I gave you the ecstasy of my humanity, so that knowing who I am, you would love me. In order to attract all your love, I used with you many stratagems of love. You remember them. It is not necessary for me to make you a list. Now, after having thoroughly attracted you to love my person, you have been caught by my will, and you love it. Since you could not be without me after so much time, as if we had lived together, it was necessary that the ecstasy of my will would hold you in place of my humanity. All the things I did before were graces to dispose you to the ecstasy of my will. When I dispose a soul to live in a higher manner in my will, I have to manifest myself in order to infuse graces so great. Surprised, I said, what are you saying, Jesus? Ecstasy in your will? Yes, my volition is true and perfect ecstasy, and you break this ecstasy whenever you want to think about yourself. But I will not let you win. Great chastisements will come in the near times, although you don't believe it. You and the one who directs you will believe when you see. Therefore, it is necessary that the ecstasy of my humanity be interrupted, but not completely. Otherwise, you would bind me everywhere. Then I will let the sweet enchantment of my volition come in order to make you suffer less when you see the chastisements. End of the reading.
The 12th of September, 1926, Volume 19. The bond of the soul with the divine will is an eternal bond. The humanity of our Lord possesses the kingdom of the divine will, so much so that his whole life was dependent upon it. To form the kingdom of the divine will in the soul is to transmit to her what the humanity of Jesus possesses. While it seems that my always lovable Jesus comes back, and I believe I will lose him no more, all of a sudden he escapes me like a flash, and I remain without him, without the one who forms the life of my poor existence, with the harsh nail of my delirium for the return of the one who makes the sun rise in my poor soul. But while I was raving for his return, and I feared he might have left me, all of a sudden he came back and told me, "My daughter, don't you want to convince yourself that I cannot leave you? If your union with me were bound, formed, sealed on a basis other than my will, you could fear. But since it is bound, written, signed, on the eternal basis of my will, What is eternal is not subject to mutations. On the contrary, your whole being, your desires, your affections, and even your inmost fibres are bound with eternal bonds, and my will flows in them to constitute itself their life, and form them with the divine and eternal substance it possesses. Can eternity ever be split? Can a God ever change? Can the Supreme Being ever separate from his will? All this is inseparable, indivisible. In the same way, everything that my will unites enters into the divine order and becomes inseparable from me. So how can I leave you? If it were not so, everything that my will has done in you, its crafting, its foundation, its very manifestations, would be a game, something superficial, a way of speaking, not a reality. Therefore, remove these thoughts that I might leave you, because it is not something that my will produces or that belongs to it. My will is firmness and indissoluble bond. It seems unseemly for one who possesses my will as life to occupy herself with anything else. Rather, you should remain firm on how to expand the boundaries of its kingdom, so that it might triumph, it may be formed in you, and you may transmit it to the poor generations which are now wriggling about and forming the current of the chasms into which they will be swept. But the chastisements also are necessary. This will serve to prepare the ground so that the kingdom of the supreme fiat may form in the midst of the human family. So many lies which will be an obstacle to the triumph of my kingdom will disappear from the face of the earth, and therefore many chastisements of destruction will take place. Others will be formed by creatures themselves to destroy one another. However, this must not worry you. Rather pray that everything may take place for the triumph of the kingdom of the supreme fiat. Having said this, he disappeared. So I became occupied with doing my usual round in the supreme will. Its light made everything present to me, both what it has done in creation and what it has done in redemption. The divine will, bilocated in each act it does in them, awaited a little visit of mine to each of its acts, be it even a passing visit there, where it reigned and dominated as queen, to have its little daughter as its company. Oh, how it enjoyed my little visit in each of its acts, my little I love you, my meagre adoration, my gratitude, my thank you, my subjection. And since its acts are innumerable, I never finished reaching them all. Then, as we reached the acts of redemption, my sweet Jesus made himself seen as a little child, but so little that he could be enclosed within my breast. How beautiful, pretty, charming he was, to see him so little, strolling, sitting, placing himself on his throne of majesty in my little soul, administering to me his life, his breath, his acts, so that I might take everything from him. But while I could see him within me as a little child, at the same time he also became crucified. The tension of his members was such that one could count his bones and nerves one by one. Now while the little child was enclosed in my breast, the crucified Jesus laid himself within all of my members, leaving not a particle of me which was not possessed by his adorable person. I could feel his life more than my own. Then, after I remained in this position for some time with Jesus, he told me, "My daughter, my humanity possesses the kingdom of my will, so much so that my whole life was dependent upon it, and by being dependent on it, I had the intelligence of the supreme volition, its gaze, its breath, its operating, its steps, its motion, and eternal heartbeat. In this way I formed the kingdom of the supreme fiat, its life and its goods, in my humanity. Do you see, then, what it means to form its kingdom in you? I must transmit to you what my humanity possesses, which will administer to you its thought, its gaze, its breath, and everything I possess, for the formation of it. So how much I love this kingdom. I place my whole life, my pains, my death at its disposal, at its foundation. Guard, defence, support. I will leave out nothing of myself which will not serve to maintain the triumph and the absolute dominion of my will in full vigour. Therefore do not be surprised if you see the different stages of my age and of my works being as though repeated in you. And you see me now as a child, now young, now crucified. This is the kingdom of my will present in you, and my whole life lines up inside and outside of you as guard and defence of my kingdom. Therefore be attentive, and when some fear assails you, think that you are not alone, that you have my whole life as help to form this kingdom of mine within you, and continue your flight constantly in the unity of the supreme light of the divine will. It is there that I await you, to give you my surprises in return, to give you my lessons. End of the reading.
The 12th of September 1931, volume 29. True love forms the stake on which to consume oneself in order to make him whom one loves live again. The day of Jesus in the Eucharist. My abandonment in the divine volition continues. While I was doing my acts, I thought to myself, but is it true that my sweet Jesus likes the continuity of my little acts? And Jesus, making himself heard, told me, my daughter, a broken love can never give of heroism, because by not being continuous, it forms many voids in the creature that produce weakness, coldness, and are almost in act of extinguishing the little flame that was lit. And therefore, it takes away from her the fortitude of love that with its light makes one comprehend who it is that one loves, and with its heat it maintains lit the little flame that produces the heroism of true love, so much so that she feels happy to give her life for him whom she loves. A continuous love has the virtue of generating in the soul of the creature him whom she always loves. And this generation is formed in the centre of her continuous love. See then what an incessant love means: to form for oneself the stake on which to consume and burn oneself, to be able to form on that stake the life of your beloved Jesus. One can say, in continuous love, I consume my life to make live again him whom I incessantly love. Oh, had I not always loved the creature, and if I did not love her with a love that never says enough, I would never have descended from heaven to earth to give her my life with so many pains and heroism for love of her. It was my continuous love that, like sweet chain, drew me and made me do the heroic act of laying down my life in order to purchase hers. A continuous love can reach anything. It can do anything. It facilitates everything, and it knows how to convert everything into love. On the other hand, a broken love can be called love of circumstances, interested love, vile love, that can reach the point, if the circumstances change, of denying and maybe even despising him whom it loved. More so, since only the continuous acts form life in the creature, she, as she forms her act, in her very act arises the light the love, the sanctity, the grace, according to the act that she does. Therefore, an interrupted love and good cannot be called either true love or true life or true good. Then he added with a more tender tone, my daughter, if you want your Jesus to accomplish in you his loving designs, let your love and your acts be continuous in my will. In fact, when my will finds continuity, it finds its way of divine acting and remains engaged in the perennial act of the creature. And it hastens to do what it has established for her, finding, by virtue of her incessant acts, the space, the necessary preparations, and the very life in which it can form its admirable designs and accomplish its most beautiful works. More so, since each act done in my will is one more retying that is formed between the divine will and the human. It is one more step that she takes in the sea of the fiat. It is a greater right that the soul acquires. After this, I continued to pray before the tabernacle of love, and in my interior I said to myself, what do you do, my love, in this prison of love? And Jesus, all goodness, told me, my daughter, do you want to know what I do? I do my day. You must know that my whole life spent down here, I enclose within one day. My day begins by being conceived and being born. The veils of the sacramental accidents serve me as swaddling clothes for my tender age. And when, because of human ingratitude, they leave me alone and try to offend me, I do my exile, left with only the company of some loving soul who, like a second mother, cannot detach herself from me and keeps me faithful company. From the exile, I move on to Nazareth, doing my hidden life in the company of those few good who surround me, and continuing my day as creatures draw near to receive me, I do my public life, repeating my evangelical scenes, offering to each one of my teachings the helps, the comforts that are necessary for them. I act as father, as teacher, as doctor, and if needed, also as judge. So I spend my day waiting for all and doing good to all. And oh, how many times I have to remain alone without a heart that will palpitate near me. I feel a desert around me and I remain alone, praying. I feel the loneliness of my days that I spent in the desert down here, and oh, how painful it is for me. I, who have a heartbeat for all in each heart, jealous, I guard everyone, feeling isolated and abandoned. But my day does not end with the soul abandonment. There is not one day that ungrateful souls do not offend me and receive me sacrilegiously and make me complete my day with my passion and with my death on the cross. It is sacrilege, the most ruthless death that I receive in this sacrament of love. So in this tabernacle, I do my day by carrying out everything I carried out in the 33 years of my mortal life. And just as in everything I did and do, the prime purpose, the prime act of life is the will of my Father, that it be done on earth as it is in heaven. So in this little host, I do nothing other than implore that one be my will with my children. And I call you in this divine will in which you find my whole life in act, and you, by following it, ruminating it and offering it, unite yourself with me in my Eucharistic day to obtain that my will be known and reign upon earth. And so you too will be able to say, I do my day together with Jesus. End of the reading.
The 12th of September 1937, Volume 35. How these truths are the greatest gift that God gives to us. Divine birth. fidgets and delirium to see us possessors of his gifts, outpouring of his love, his word, the great good of one act done in his divine will. My poor mind is besieged by the divine will. It wants to talk so much about its truths that I just cannot contain them, because my capacity is too small. So I'm forced to say, "Stop, Jesus, for now. You want to say so many things, but I'm incapable of retaining them. I won't be able to say them all, and much less to write them as you want." And my sweet Jesus, feeling compassion for my littleness, all tenderness, told me, "My little daughter of my will, don't worry. Your littleness remains dissolved inside my will. You are not the one who has to manifest her truths, but my will itself will take the task of narrating all that it wants to make them known. It will invest your mind. It will make itself small on your lips, and it will make itself known for who it really is. You surely cannot do it by yourself, but if you place your will into ours, we will fix everything, and we will make known all that we want to say. You must know that when we want to do good to the creatures, or to reveal the truth, which is the greatest good we can give them, by speaking it we make of it a gift. First we mature it within the womb of our divinity. Then when we can no longer contain it, because our love is such that it wants to see the creatures possessing that gift, to the extent of becoming fidgety and delirious, and even of making us languish for desire to see that good transmitted to them, we give it. We find ourselves in the painful conditions of a poor mother, once her pregnancy comes to term, feels as though she would die if she didn't deliver her baby into daylight. We cannot die, but if we don't deliver to the light the good to which we want to give birth, our love reaches such excesses that if creatures could see it, they would understand how much a God can love and how much they constrict us when they don't accept the gift we want to give them. Therefore, when we find one who receives it, we confirm the gift, we make a feast, feeling victorious for the good we gave them. And our baby, delivered with so much love, being received by one single creature, will go around to all the creatures, and by its generative virtue it will regenerate many other births, filling the whole world. We will have the great glory of seeing heaven and earth filled with our gift and our goods, and of seeing it possessed by those who want to receive it. We feel everywhere the loving voices, the notes of our speaking love, returning to us our repressed love. We could not deliver this gift of ours had we not found at least one creature willing to receive. Doing good is a passion for us. Giving is the continuous delirium of our love. And in finding one who receives it, we feel our life and our rest in that gift. We love so much the first one who disposes herself to receive our gift that we trust her. We make of her our secretary. And she, feeling so much loved by us, makes the commitment to love us for all. And oh, what a contest between her and us. You must know that each word is an outpouring of love to the creature. So every word that we have already said on our divine will is love that we've poured out. Being refreshed by this outpouring, we have continued to talk to form a chain of our love outpourings, since what we had kept within ourselves was a repressed love. If you knew how much this love pouring means and the goods it produces. This unleashing of our love fills heaven and earth, invests it and embalms all sufferings. It becomes the day in the night of guilt, converting sinners, straightening one who's limping, in the good, strengthening the good ones. In sum, there is no good that a word of our outpouring of love cannot do. Therefore, letting us speak is the greatest good that can be done for the creatures. It is our love being returned. It is giving a divine life to the creatures. It is the greatest glory we can receive. What can one of our words not do? It can do all. One can say that whoever is disposed to listen to it gives life to our word, since we never speak if we don't find one who wants to listen. The one who listens loves us so much that we feel as if she wanted to give us life in the midst of the creatures, so we give our life at her disposal. Therefore be attentive to listen. Let us pour out our love, because many times when we have nobody to whom to express our love, these outpourings are justly turned into justice. Jesus kept silent. Who can say what remained inside my mind? I don't have the words to say it. Therefore I stop and abandon myself in the arms of Jesus, to rest together with him who loves me so much and wants to be loved in return, who gives me the whole of himself to be loved as he loves me. So I continued my round in the creation, to trace the acts done by the divine volition and make them mine, to be able to love him the way he loved me. And as I was wandering around in the blue vault, thinking to myself, this heaven serves as a vault for the residents of the earth and as a pavement for the celestial residents. So since it serves everyone, all have the duty to adore the one who, with so much love, created this celestial vault to give it to us. So I called all the angels, the saints, and all the residents of the earth with me, so that all would return love, adoration, glory, and thanksgiving to our Creator, for he loved us so much that he gave us this heaven. In the divine will I could call and embrace everyone, as if all were one they loved with me. Sweet Jesus felt loved and wounded by so many voices, and with unspeakable love told me, my daughter, the power of one act in my will is such as to seem unbelievable. As you were calling everyone, I felt loved by all. And since you have free will, worthy of merit, as you omitted your act, my will unleashed from itself a greater love, glory, and happiness, by which all felt invested. The angels and the saints received a higher glory and happiness, and felt more loved by God in return. All those on earth received more help and graces, according to their disposition. All the acts done in my will receive this great good, because my will belongs to all, and all have a right to that act. Since it is an act from a pilgrim soul, who gains the merit of every good she does, that merit becomes a common merit, and also common joy, love, and glory. If you knew what it means to be loved more by God in return, and the joy and the glory that a God can give, oh, how much more attentive you would be. The angels and the saints who know it long for your call in order to have this great good. And when you don't call them, all concerned, they say, she is not calling us today. Therefore, although you are on earth, your merit runs to heaven, to give new love and new happiness to the celestial residents. Oh, how I wish that all knew what it means to live in my will. This knowledge is like the appetite, which causes one to desire and to enjoy the food eaten. But without appetite, one feels aversion toward that same food and does not enjoy it. Such is the knowledge. It is the little door for my gifts, the good I want to give to creatures, and it is the confirmation of possession. Knowledge generates esteem and appreciation of my truths. Only then do I speak, when I know that my words are loved, listened to, and appreciated. Even more when I see esteem and love, I feel attracted by my same love to manifest more truths. But if I don't see it, I remain silent, and I feel the pain of my repressed love. You will not do this to me, will you? End of the reading. There are no more readings tonight. Today, there are no more readings today. Have a blessed day.